Alright, so I'm going to try to start it. I just created a new wizard for 1500s and one bar. I just have the factory GM one bar. And I'm just going to hook up the fuel pumps. I just have the wires kind of draped across. That was all the old wiring. We're going to give it a swirl and see what it does. I just have some regular, I think it's like 87 gas in it. Just some lawnmower gas. Well, I have a huge fuel leak, so I'm not doing that. Well, as I said in one of my other videos, I was kind of running out of fittings, so I ended up using some used fittings that I had, and two of the used 10AN fittings are leaking on the section going to the filter. So I'm going to use this section here, which is an old return line. And I'm just gonna try to hook this up quick and see if we can get it to not leak. So actually, upon further inspection, the filter wasn't tight. The fuel filter was just spun on, barely tight at all. So that was definitely a huge leak. The fittings might still be leaking because when I pulled down on the line, it looked like it was relieving pressure. Like it was holding, there was probably still pressure in the system. And then when I pulled on the line and bent the fittings, because where they swivel, then they started to leak out of them. So they might be good when they're straight, but I'll still probably change them because they shouldn't leak at all if they're flexing. But the filter was definitely loose, so that's probably where the big spray came from. When the system finally pressurized, it just started spraying all over. All right, so we're gonna give it a whirl now. The 1-inch NPT fittings were also leaking on that filter, so put some Teflon tape on that. I just ran it for about a minute, didn't see any leaks, so I'm gonna hook it back up and then I'm gonna try to start it. I did clean up all the gas, aired out the garage. I do have a fire extinguisher out, so let's try it. I have an idea. I'm gonna open the throttle blade a little bit. Fuel pump's not hooked up. right. Fuel leak in the front now. Well, I'm gonna call it for the night. It's like 10 o'clock. Whole garage is like full of fumes and everything's wet. So I'm gonna quit while I'm ahead, let everything dry, let the engine bay dry up. I don't know where that front leak came from. It developed after it started because I came over and I was checking I was opening the throttle blade and it wasn't leaking, or at least I didn't notice it. And then when I went to go check it after it was idling, it was leaking. And there's a pretty decent puddle on the floor. I'm guessing it's an injector O-ring leak or something from the fuel rail. I did inspect everything or check everything before I started it up front, and there wasn't anything leaking up front. So it started after the truck started. So I'll have to investigate that tomorrow, track that down. But hey, it started. Just needed a little bit of tweaking with the throttle blade. It does have good oil pressure too. It was like 55 PSI from what I saw. But yeah, I just needed to tweak the throttle blade a little bit. Remember the throttle body video? I said I had it closed all the way and I was gonna need to adjust that on the startup. So ended up doing that. It runs, has good oil pressure, but it's a little leaky. So we'll get that fixed. The bright side, Shitbox Supply has been helping me out with all these like fittings and stuff, and none of the Shitbox Supply fittings leak. The other ones I did get, or some of the used ones I was using, are leaking, but all the Shitbox Supply stuff is working pretty good. So at least up till this point. So we'll get all that stuff straightened out. I'll probably replace all the stuff that's leaking. The one added loop that I put in there wasn't leaking. We'll just get this fixed. It's probably just an injector. It might be the injector in the fuel rail because the brackets that I made, it might be a little bit tweaked. I do have 2 washers in there for spacers, so it might be too high yet. So I might be able to suck that thing down real tight so it doesn't allow the injector to move around at all. So I'll mess around with that stuff tomorrow. I don't want to blow myself up today, so I'm going to let the garage air out, let everything completely dry, and then we'll go back to it. So didn't get it out today. Didn't get to the track, but like it's 10. I think the track's already closed. It's almost 11 o'clock, or it's 10 o'clock. So no way I would have been able to go out, but I did get it started, so that works for me, and then we'll go from here and just fix what we need to.